Austria is observing a minute of silence after a school shooting in the city of Graz. Let's take a moment now to go live as people pause to remember the victims. Austria is observing 3 days of national mourning after a gunman killed 10 people before turning his weapon on himself. The incident was the worst school shooting in the country's post-war history. The 21-year-old suspected shooter was a former pupil at the school. Police say they found a non-functioning pipe bomb and a letter at his home, though they are still searching for a motive.
It was 10 a.m. at this high school in Graz, where many young people were preparing for the start of the summer holidays, when a normal school day was interrupted in the worst possible way. Several people were killed by a gunman. Police say the perpetrator, a former student at the school, was later found dead in a bathroom. Many more victims were rushed to hospital, some with serious injuries.
The suspected gunman was an Austrian from the Graz area. According to what we know so far, 2 firearms were used in the crime, which were secured at the scene. They are being forensically examined. The suspect is believed to have possessed the weapons legally. We cannot give any information on the shooter's motive at this time.
Austrian police stood guard outside an events hall, where pupils and their relatives affected by the shooting gathered in the wake of the attack. Chancellor Christian Stocker called it a dark day in Austrian history.
The shooting rampage at a school here in Graz is a national tragedy that has shaken us to the core. There are no words to express the pain, bewilderment and grief felt throughout Austria.
With flags across the country flying at half-mast, Austria will now mark 3 days of national mourning.
Let's speak to our correspondent, Christine Mhundwa. She's at that school in Graz where the shooting took place. So, Christine, we just heard there a moment of silence for the victims. Could you just give us a sense of what people there are going through right now?
Yeah, Claire, and there have been a lot of students accompanied by their teachers going into the school. They're presumably laying flowers and candles at a shrine inside the school grounds. They're all coming out visibly emotional, shook. Many of them are wearing black. I just want to turn around and see if he's still there, but there is a young man in green. If you see him there, the young man in the green t-shirt, he has been outside the school now for about an hour. He's not a student at this school, but his best friend was. She was 17 years old, and she is one of the people who was killed in the attack yesterday. So people around the school today have been affected closely by this tragedy. Many of them don't want to speak on camera. Some of them were at the school yesterday when this attack happened. 3 girls were in a nearby classroom. They told me that they didn't recognize the sounds, the shots they heard as gunfire until they could hear the screams of other students nearby. But there's just a sense of visible shock here in this community. People are just gathered here, spending time looking at the different shrines, laying flowers, candles, trying to just process what has happened here. But let's have a listen to some people who did speak to us on camera, some of the things that they told us in the wake of this attack.
We first noticed it because our school isn't far from here, and we just heard the sirens of the police and ambulance cars going around like every minute you heard, and then someone must have read the news or something and said there has been this attack. And yeah, it's a very strange feeling that I have today, and many people who are in schools in Graz and nearby.
Of course, it's in our neighborhood, and our kids go to the same neighborhood school, and it was so horrendous. And of course, we have parents, friends whose children go to the same school, to the high school. It was very scary, to be honest. And also, being in Graz, I've lived in Graz for 9 years. It has never happened that something like that can happen. Nobody has ever thought that something like that happened.
I'm speechless. From my perspective, I just feel like it didn't have to happen this way. But it did. If people just thought a little differently, this kind of thing wouldn't happen. This has never happened here in Graz before. I'm in shock.
Yeah, so, and if you can see behind me, there's shrine there where people are continuing to lay their flowers. Claire, the school remains closed, but just a few hundred meters from here is a hall where students of the school are receiving psychological support. Psychologists are on the scene, trauma counselors, to just help the students and the teachers. Parents as well have been invited to take part in this session to just process the grief and the shock of what took place here in Graz.
10 people were killed, Christine, but of course there are many more who are still in hospital with their injuries. Can you tell us anything about their condition?
Yeah, so we actually managed to speak to an emergency doctor who was on shift at one of the hospitals where some of the injured were taken yesterday. He says from what he can see, there's only one person who is in a critical condition. The others appear to be in a stable condition. Of course, the authorities themselves have said no more than the fact that there are people who are hospitalized, but this doctor, speaking exclusively to us, telling us that from what he can see, from the assessment that he's made from the people that he treated last night and from what he's hearing in the other hospital, there is only one person who's in real danger. The others are stable.
Now, the suspected gunman was a former student at that school where you were, and he killed himself after the attack. Are police any closer to finding out a motive behind this?
Not closer yet, Claire. That still remains the question. There was a letter that was found in his home. It's a farewell letter of sorts. The police have confirmed that it didn't have any indications of what the motive would have been. Local media here is also reporting that he sent his mum a video message prior to the attack. She didn't see the message in time. Suggestions are if she had, she might have been able to intervene. It's not clear what content was in that video message. But this is the open question here as people are processing the sheer horror of all of this is what motivated this young man who appeared to have a troubled life. Suggestions that he was bullied online. Indeed, he didn't finish his education here. So this is what the country is looking to now, answers as to what was it that motivated this young man to commit this horrendous crime in what is supposed to be a safe place, a school.
Christine, thank you so much for your reporting today. That is our correspondent, Christine Mhundwa in Graz.